is perplexed. Now let me find. Here we go. Perplexed, which means confused. It's another word for confused. The difference between, there's not really a big difference. It's just that you probably would use perplexed in a situation where you see something very complicated, a very complicated problem, and you can't find the answer. You're so confused, you can't find the answer. The question is too complicated for you. That's usually when you would use perplex. And we'll look again at how they're using it in the story. But first, let's practice using it on our own. So here's a situation. Mark is taking a very complicated math test in math class. And at some point, he realized he's going to fail the test. He's failing because the problems are too confusing. So he's doing the test and he's saying, oh, no, I'm going to fail this test. There's no way. I can't answer these. He's still doing it, but he knows he's failing. Let's make a when Mark realized failing math test question. When did he realize that he was failing the math test? And the answer is when the problems were so complicated that he was confused. When the problems were so complicated that he was confused. Instead of saying all of this, let's use perplexed. The math problems perplexed him. That means they were so complicated that he was confused. The math problems perplexed him. He realized he was failing the math test when the math problems perplexed him. Now let's do something with this. The math problems perplexed him. Let's change this into a passive voice construction. He was perplexed. He was perplexed by. He was perplexed by the math problems. He realized he was failing the test when he was. He realized he was. He realized he was. He realized he was failing the test when he was. He realized he was failing the test when he was when he was perplexed by the math problems. Okay, let's try another example using the word perplex. Here is another situation. John and Mary bought an interesting bookshelf from a popular furniture store, and they brought it home. They put it together. They had to put it together. They had to put the pieces together, assemble the pieces. I wrote this remembering like 25 years ago. I bought a bookshelf from IKEA. It was kind of a cool looking bookshelf that looked like it defied gravity. There was like a middle column, and then all of the shelves were in the middle. But it was very hard to read the instructions. It was very hard to follow the instructions. Maybe I'm stupid because it's just a bookshelf, right? But okay, so that's the situation that John and Mary have. They bought a bookshelf from maybe IKEA 25 years ago, and they had to assemble the pieces. So they're reading the instructions, but it's very confusing. Let's make a when realize make a mistake question. So they go to the store and they say, oh, that's a beautiful bookshelf. So they buy it and it's in a box and they think it's a wonderful purchase. But then when they take it out of the box, they say, oh, this was a big mistake. So let's make a when realize they make a mistake question. When did they realize? When did they realize they were? Or no, let's say made in the past. When did they realize they made? When did they realize they made a? When did they realize they made a mistake? When did they realize they made a mistake? And here's the answer. When they read the assembly instructions. And they were so complicated and so confusing. They were really confused. So let's use perplex in this situation. The instructions perplexed them. The instructions perplexed them. They realized they made a mistake when the instructions perplexed them. Now let's change this sentence. The instructions perplexed them. Let's use passive voice. They were perplexed. They were perplexed by the instructions. They were perplexed by the instructions. They realized they made a mistake when they were perplexed by the instructions. Okay, now let's go back to the story and see how they use the word perplex. The bride looked unhappy. The guests were the most perplexed people on earth. So imagine the situation. This is they're at a wedding. Everybody's supposed to be happy. That's what they think is going to happen. But the bride looks unhappy. The groom looks unhappy, and it's a very strange wedding. So the people, the guests, are trying to figure out what's going on here. This is weird. And that's why they're using perplexed here, because the guests are confused and they're trying to figure out what's happening.